When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. I still remember the moment, the way the morning light fell on the kitchen tiles, soft and quiet, like it had no idea my life was about to shift. I was folding a dishcloth, a simple, ordinary thing I had done thousands of times, when she spoke those words that would stain the rest of my days. "I think it's time you start looking for another place to stay." She said it gently, almost kindly, but even the softest sentence can break you if it lands on a fragile heart. I did not answer. I did not ask why. I just stood there, with my hands gripping the cloth a little too tight. Maybe I should have said something. Maybe I should have told her how much I had tried to stay out of the way, how I cooked only when asked, how I kept to my room, how I swallowed my tears when I felt unwanted. But silence has always been my shield, my companion, my mistake. I smiled, a small, tired smile that did not belong to me. "Of course," I whispered. "I understand." But I didn't. And that was the beginning of everything I am about to share with you. For years, I believed silence kept the peace. I believed that if I didn't complain, didn't argue, didn't express pain, then the people around me would somehow feel cared for. But silence has a sharp edge I never noticed. And one day, it cut through the bonds I thought were unbreakable. I want to tell you this story slowly, the way you tell something precious, something heavy. Because it is not just the story of a house I left. It is the story of the moments I missed, the feelings I buried, and the family I lost without realizing it. It is a story of how being quiet can hurt the people who love you, and how by the time I understood that truth, the door had already closed behind me. The day Amina told me to leave was not the day I lost my place in the family. That loss happened long before. It happened in small, almost invisible ways, like dust settling on furniture until one day you realize the whole room looks different. Looking back now, I can see the signs clearly. I remember the evenings when I sat at the dining table, waiting for Fahad to come home from work. I never asked him how his day was. I never told him about mine. I just served his food quietly, watched him eat, and pretended that silence meant comfort. But silence can feel like distance. Silence can feel like absence. Silence can feel like rejection. I didn't know that then. There were days Amina tried to talk to me. She would sit across from me on the sofa, trying to bridge the space between us. "Auntie, are you okay? You never say much," she would say gently. And I always replied with the same empty smile, the same practiced line. "I'm fine, dear. I don't want to disturb anyone." But the truth is, I was lonely. I felt like a guest in a house I never planned to leave, and instead of saying it, I hid it behind quiet gestures, folding clothes, cooking meals, staying out of sight. I thought I was being respectful. I thought they would understand without me speaking. But people are not mind readers. And silence can be loud in all the wrong ways. Sometimes I saw the confusion in Amina's eyes. Sometimes I saw the worry on Fahad's face, but I never asked them if something was wrong. I never opened the door to conversation. I kept everything inside. And when people feel shut out long enough, they stop knocking. The morning she asked me to leave, rain was tapping gently on the windows. A soft sound, almost comforting. I remember thinking how strange it was. The world looked peaceful, while my heart felt like a fragile teacup someone had just dropped. Amina stood there, wringing her hands. She wasn't cruel, she wasn't angry. She looked like someone carrying a burden too heavy for her age. "Please don't think we don't care," she said softly, "but we don't know how to live like this anymore. There's so much silence in this house, we never know how you feel." That sentence, "We never know how you feel." It echoed in me longer than any other words she said. I had lived with them for 6 years, 6 long years, and they still didn't know me. That was my fault, not theirs. I nodded again, a slow, empty gesture. I turned back to the counter. I wiped the same clean spot over and over until she left the room. Inside, something old and tired in me cracked open. But even then, I didn't cry. Even then, I stayed silent. The next few days passed like a film with muted audio. I packed my clothes, my folded saris, my little medicines. I packed the half-finished sweater I was knitting for my grandson, who never wore the last one I made. Fahad avoided looking at me. I avoided speaking to him. It was a dance we had perfected without ever learning the steps. Once he came to my door while I was packing. "Ami, should I help?" he asked softly. I shook my head. "No need." He looked like he wanted to say something more, something real, something human. But my silence pushed him away the way it always did. He nodded and left. I didn't call him back. Why didn't I? Even now I ask myself that question in the quiet hours of the night. Maybe I was afraid that if I spoke, all the emotions I had locked inside me for years would spill out and drown us both. Maybe I was ashamed. Maybe I just didn't know how to speak anymore. Silence had become my language. The day I left, the house felt unusually bright. Amina made tea for me. She placed it on the table like a peace offering between two people who never learned how to read each other's hearts. "I hope you won't misunderstand," she said softly. "No, dear," I replied. "You did what you felt was right." But inside, I felt like a tree being uprooted. Fahad carried my small suitcase to the taxi waiting outside. He walked slowly, like every step hurt. When he opened the trunk, he paused. His voice was tight when he said, "You could stay longer if you want. Maybe we can talk." Talk. That word again. That word I had avoided for half my life. I smiled faintly and touched his arm. "No, Beta. It's okay. You two deserve peace." But the truth was different. The truth was that I didn't know how to sit with them and say, "I'm hurting. I feel alone. I need you." I had never said those words in my entire life, not even to my husband when he was alive. I was raised to believe patience was virtue and silence was dignity. But silence can also be a wall, and walls keep even the people you love on the outside. I moved into a small rented room near an old market, a single bed, a wooden chair, a window that faced a narrow street where children played in the evenings. The first night, the loneliness hit me like a slow wave, not loud, not dramatic, just steady, steady enough to sink into my bones. I sat on the edge of the bed and held the small sweater I had knitted. I ran my fingers over the soft wool, feeling each stitch like a memory of all the things I had never said. I whispered into the quiet room, "I should have spoken. I should have told them." But the walls offered no answer. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Sometimes Fahad called. Our conversations lasted less than a minute. "Ami, are you okay?" "Yes, Beta, I'm fine." "Do you need anything?" No, I'm good." And that was it. Two people circling around words they were too scared to speak. I often wondered if he felt abandoned, if he thought I left because I didn't want to stay. But the truth was, I just didn't want to be a burden. I never told him that. I should have. One evening, while watching the streetlights flicker outside my window, I realized something painful. Silence is not peace. Silence is not strength. Silence is not love. Silence is distance, and I had created too much of it. Not on purpose. Never on purpose. But harm doesn't require intention. Sometimes harm only requires absence. Months later, I received a call from Fahad. His voice was trembling. "Ami, can you come visit?" Those words made my heart jump and ache at the same time. When I reached their doorstep, I noticed the lights were dim. The house felt different, heavier, quieter, unfamiliar. Amina opened the door. Her eyes were tired, red at the corners. Without speaking, she stepped aside to let me in. Fahad was sitting on the sofa, holding a doctor's report. My heart tightened. "Ami," he whispered. "Amina is expecting. We wanted to tell you earlier. We wanted you with us, but we didn't know how." I sat down slowly, feeling the weight of everything I had missed. The conversations, the shared joy, the small moments that make a family feel like a family. Amina sat beside me. Her voice broke as she said, "I never wanted you to leave. I just wanted you to talk to us. I didn't know your silence meant pain. I thought it meant distance. My silence had been a wall, and they had interpreted it as rejection. Tears filled my eyes, but even then, my voice came out small. I never wanted to hurt you, I whispered. I just didn't know how to speak. Amina took my hand gently. We didn't know how to listen. In that moment, something soft and sad settled inside me, a realization I wished I had learned years ago. Communication is not noise. Communication is connection. Silence is not kindness if it hides your heart, and love cannot survive without words. We talked that evening, really talked, for the first time in years. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud. Just slow, honest words shared by people who had finally stopped running from their feelings. I told them about my loneliness, my fear, my wish not to burden them, the nights I cried quietly in my room, the days I hoped they would sit with me and ask real questions. And they told me about their confusion, their concern, their feeling of being pushed away. We were all hurting in silence, and silence almost cost us everything. I moved back with them a month later, not as a burden, not as a shadow, but as a part of the family, the way it was always meant to be. I learned to speak slowly, simply, honestly, and they learned to listen, gently, patiently. Now when something hurts, I say it. When something worries me, I share it. When something touches my heart, I express it. I learned the greatest truth of my life, one that came too late for many years, but just in time for the years ahead. Silence can protect you, but it can also push away the people trying to love you. Speak while you still can. Share your heart while someone is there to hold it. And never let the fear of burdening someone become the burden that breaks you, because love needs words, and silence, no matter how gentle, can sometimes feel like goodbye.